This just in, you are looking at
we have a breaking
obviously
news
very
story to tell you
disturbing
about.
live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed.
As we come on air, we have serious news of a major, very tragic event for you right now. Incredible plane crashed into the World Trade.
But either way, extensive damage.
What's this other jet doing? What's this other jet doing? Holy fuck!
Oh my God.
Oh my God, another plane has just hit. It hit another building, flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God, it's right in the middle of the building.
You can read her up from under your seat. Stay on page 153. At the count of 3, everyone should be on page 153.
Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion, and right now we're looking at an aerial view of the Pentagon.
There are reports the Pentagon has been evacuated and the White House is being evacuated. Clearly you're seeing now these
However, I'd be very, very cautious.
Take 2. Take 2 and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the 2 towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way! You okay?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Watch out, watch out. I got
I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire, and now it looks almost like a mushroom cloud explosion, this huge billowing smoke in the second tower. This was the second of the 2 towers hit.
Now this is what it looked like moments ago. My God.
In Washington, there is a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated. And there's, you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord. There are no words. We have a report that a 747 is down in Pennsylvania, and that remains unconfirmed at this point, and so we will check on that.
everybody, and welcome back. We have a bit of a conspiracy one for everybody tonight, and my good friends Jeremy and Fernando are well versed on this one, especially Fernando, aren't you?
Yeah, because I was in the midst of it when everything went down.
How much do you trust your government?
None at all. None at all. None at all. Unfortunately, I mean, so much so that I'm gonna say right now, the last time I voted was for Bill Clinton, and I was forced to go to the school to do so. And yeah, I never voted since then. I feel like all that is just a way to keep the people thinking that their voice actually matters.
I get it. I mean, it's compulsory over here. We have to vote, otherwise we get fined. So, you know.
I mean, and the only way you can get taken off the registry is if you're dead or you have a illness that impairs you from making sound judgment.
Or you permanently leave the country and renounce your citizenship. They're the only ways you can do it. Yep.
No, I think the only thing that I could recall that it was mandatory, and if we didn't have it, it would be we would get a fine at the end of the year, and that would be health insurance. Obama actually put that in place. If we don't have a health insurance, we would get fined. I think it was like $500. I would rather pay $500 at the end of the year than having to pay hundreds a month to have something that I would rarely use.
Get free healthcare. It's easier.
Yeah.
That would be. But anyway,
back to the topic. Yeah, so I guess it was already coined up front, and that is, do you trust your government? And with it being that time of with it being that time of the year, everybody knows what happened on 9/11. So we're going to have a bit of a chat. Fernando was there in New York on that fateful day. And obviously this is a fairly sensitive one, but being who we are, we're going to try and approach it the best way that we can. But we're talking about the conspiracy side of it. So I think the best thing to start off with is talk about our experiences when it actually happened and how it hit everybody. But I think everybody wants to hear Fernando go on about this because he was actually there, and it would have hit very close to home. I mean, pardon the pun again, but life would have been really, really different there opposed to everywhere else in the world. And I remember it was a Tuesday night for us, obviously with the time difference, and I remember that night vividly. So, Fernando, do you want to tell us what you were doing that morning, and then how you first heard what happened and what happened for the rest of your next few days after that? Because I remember it being right up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
Figuratively speaking again.
Actually, I was working in my father's grocery store at the time, and man, I remember that, you know, at first I just vividly remember all of the fighter jets just flying all above us, and it was so low to the ground that the noise was actually rumbling everything. And then we were like, you know, what's going on? And then once we turned on the television in the store and saw that Manhattan got hit, the Twin Towers fell, it was, you know, I think I vividly remember telling my father, put on the news, take this movie off or something like this. During that time, I had a lot of family members that were in Manhattan at the time. They worked there. We lost contact with them, so we actually thought that they were, you know, gone for. It was very rough. But what happened with them was that due to transportation, as you guys can only imagine, public transportations were out. There were, you know, traffic all over the place, so nobody can't really drive nowhere in or out of the city. You know, we're talking about all of the emergency police officers, firefighters. You know, it was just chaos, and they ended up having to walk out of Manhattan, walking miles into, walking the bridge across, the river and into Queens. So they had to walk home, which would be like a 2 hour walk, possibly 2 to 3 hour walk.
That was going to be one of my questions. Actually, how far away from the World Trade Center site is Queens in miles, roughly? Just to give us an idea of how far away you actually were.
Actually, 6 miles. It's an hour and 43-minute walk.
9.65 kilometers.
Yeah. So did you?
Not far at all.
You would have almost heard the buildings come down from that distance.
Actually, I didn't. We didn't hear it. But like I said, I could only vividly remember the fighter jets flying really low, right above our heads.
So when you turned on the TV and you saw that the World Trade Center had been hit, and then obviously you got these fighter jets flying overhead, what's going through your mind at the time when all this stuff is happening, which is totally surreal?
Reality didn't really set in until possibly like later on. At first it was really like a adrenaline kind of, basically, are we gonna go to war? Are we gonna fight? Anger sets in. So many different emotions gets in. But one thing that I really recall that was very positive due to a very bad situation was how, for that moment in time, everybody in New York was actually nice and willing to fight for each other.
That was going to be my next question. With you saying that you're working in a grocery store, so you're there interacting with the public. Yeah, what was not just your feelings, but the feelings of everybody else? Because it's going to drastically affect everybody around. I mean, I see pictures. I mean, we see pictures on TV of when JFK was assassinated and he dies, and you see the reactions on people in the streets and looking into TV shop windows and things like that. And I mean, I'm sure some of it's iconic and propaganda type stuff, but being there, what was that feeling like with everybody around? And
well, I saw a lot of people just angry. I saw a lot of people crying. I've seen people, all types of mixed feelings going on. I've seen people, running to get their families. Here at the time, I was living in Brooklyn. I worked in Brooklyn when the towers fell, and it's not in a nice neighborhood. Let's just say. So already at that time, you already have certain people already drunk in the morning, and even them, like even those people that you think that they don't have a life because they're just day and night drinking. Even them, like they were concerned running to get their families and stuff like this. So it was surreal. It was surreal. It was I just remember being angry and just
Okay, so that's happened. Obviously, you've got all the raw emotions of everything going on. Then you hear that the Pentagon gets hit. And then not long after that, you hear about that one that went down in the field. At that point, you've got to be wondering how many more are going to happen. What was the feeling
Flight
like?
93.
Eh?
Flight 93.
Yeah. What? I mean, I know if it was mine, I'd be like, when is this going to end? What's going on? What do we need to do?
Actually, we noticed that things were going on when the second plane hit.
Yeah.
We didn't realize nothing was going on when the first plane hit. When the second plane hit was when, that was when we turned on the television and everything So right away it wasn't just, oh, there was an accident and a plane hit the building. The building's too high. That wasn't the case with the second plane. But when the towers actually fell, like the scariest part about the building falling is the silence when it actually fell. Like everybody was just in a state of shock. Like, did this just freaking happen? And then it is surreal. It is surreal at that time. But then the Pentagon got hit. Another plane went down because the actual passengers was fighting back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, for me, that was when I was like, oh, this was orchestrated. This was an attack on us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah,
it's interesting.
That day was surreal.
Yeah, because we're going to go into. Well, we'll talk about. Do you want to actually discuss when you saw it all, Jeremy, and how you felt?
I didn't feel much. I was a kid.
Well, he goes rubbing
I was
it
10.
in again. He was rubbing it in again. Okay.
I do actually remember watching it on TV.
Wait a minute. Wait. How old are you right now?
Old enough.
What? Because I was like a teenager, right straight out of high school. This was.
So you'd have been like 17, 18?
18, 19?
Yeah, I was 10. So you're like obviously 9 years older than me. Congratulations. Old man.
Hey, settle down. I'll trump everybody on that one. We're not going to go there.
Oh, look.
No.
Gramps over here.
Oh, man.
How old do you think I was?
No, when you said that you was 10 years old when this happened, I was like,
yeah, I was. We're actually my parents were at their friend's house, and their daughters were obviously around with us about my age and my sister's age, and I remember seeing it on the TV, and we thought it was a movie.
Mm.
And then when someone had explained to us that it wasn't a movie and this is really happening, you're like, oh no, and then you went back to playing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Looking into it afterwards, it makes you sad for those people that were involved that were innocent.
Yeah.
But then you look at a lot of things that have come out and you start piecing pieces together and looking at more evidence that has been released, and you start adding other things together to it, and it just doesn't add up.
And that's what we're going to get into in a minute. But for me, it was like I said, it was a Tuesday night, and there used to be the TV show on a Tuesday. It's one of those like variety type shows where they have a bit of comedy, they have a singing thing, and it's a show called Rove McManus. He's like a comedian, and we were watching that. We used to watch it every Tuesday night, and then suddenly everything just dropped, and then it cut to these guys, news reporters, with the Twin Towers in the background, and there's all smoke bellowing out of them. And we were like, what the hell? And we're watching it, and then we saw the video of the plane actually crash into the World Trade Center, and I don't know why, but for some reason I thought I was watching a replay, but then I realized the other tower was smoking already. We actually watched the second plane hit live all the way from here in Australia, and that's the one where you see it just go pretty much straight through, and we were like, what the hell? And then obviously it was this multi-pronged thing. All the different TV cameras were all coming in, and we were just like, what? It's we're on the other side of the world. We're well away from all of that, but it almost broke our brains to try and comprehend what was actually happening. And then we heard about the Pentagon has been hit, and we're like, what? So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. How many more are going to come? And then we heard about the plane coming down in the woods or in the fields and everything, and we were like, when is this going to end? And then I know it sounds funny, but it was like, if they can do this to America, they can do this anywhere. Nobody is safe. And it was we were just so messed up. Now, obviously, at the time, I was in the middle of my doing structural engineering and all of that at TAFE, which is like a college, to become a draftsman and everything, which is what I am now. And we went in there the next day and we had a structures class, and nothing got talked about structural engineering. It was all about the Twin Towers. And we were pretty much going through the structural engineering of building a building like that. Now, the towers are different from most, because most buildings have a central core, which is where the lifts go. And that's the strong part. And then they have all the bits that go out, and that's why they have these big glass fronts. But the World Trade Center was different because their structural cores were on the four corners. And the inside wasn't that bad. And to see that going down, our structural engineering lecturer actually turned around to us and he said, the way they fell isn't conducive to the way the plane hit it, because the plane hit side on and it took out a corner, and that being a structural corner, it would have tumbled towards that way and then it would have come down on an angle. But when they went down, they went pretty much straight down, which even the day after we were saying it's like a controlled explosion or a controlled demolition, which is having charges in the right spots. The plane was the catalyst to kickstart it, and then they just hit the switch and then boom, 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 boom. And then all it takes, because they hit fairly high up, is 2 or 3 floors to collapse on themselves. Then you've got that inertia going down, the momentum. The rest just start falling and pushing out. The air starts pushing out sideways. That's when you see all this stuff coming out everywhere. And that's how they dropped. And everything about it was a controlled explosion, a controlled demolition. And right from that point, I was, well, if it was a controlled demolition, who did it? You know? And that's where this whole conspiracy part starts to kick in. Because they were very quick to invade Iraq and, Kuwait and everything after that. And then the whole thing about Osama bin Laden and everything. One of the things that happens is when the government want to seize control, suddenly something major happens, and then the world gets behind, or the country gets behind, very patriotic, gets behind them to get the job done. And that's when they get these people that just throw money at them, or suddenly obstacles in the way to getting all these funds get released so that they can get the money to get everything happening. And that leads into so many different things that we talk about, because a lot of that money will go towards black budget stuff, off the books things. And then while the public is seeing everything getting spent towards sending the planes over, sending the soldiers over, all the infrastructure, everything needed to send stuff over for the fight, you don't know how much stuff is filtering off in other places. And then when they turn around and tell you that the war cost so many $1 trillion, it never adds up. There's always missing money somewhere. So that's where I started thinking, who's behind it? And that's when I started thinking, well, the government might be the number one thing. And how much do you really trust your government? So that's the question for this show. I mean, we're already 2/3 of the way through it before we get to it. So what are your thoughts?
After everything settled down, I recall getting into, going down this rabbit hole, trying to find all the footage possible.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all the footage that mainstream puts out. I've seen all the footage that is, that you would find, on the net, that's easier than others. Then you would also find these videos as like suppressed, and that you would really have to dig to get. I recall seeing videos of people that were stuck on the top level, trying to escape down the windows. Taking, that's freaking, what, like like what choice that I don't know. Like I can't even think to dream to imagine to be in a predicament where either you could take your chances and climb out of the window down the side of the building or burn alive. I've seen video of people falling, and it's not just
Yeah, I remember
furniture.
that.
You see these people falling.
Well, not even falling,
And
jumping.
there were some jumping.
I remember saying to my wife at the time when we were watching these people jumping, I'm thinking to themselves, I was thinking, how do they think they're going to survive something like that? And then the reality hits you bang in the head. They don't. They know what they're doing. And if this is a government conspiracy, how dare they do that to their own people? These are people with families, living lives, being productive, working, and to have that choice of, do I burn alive or do I just jump and I know it's going to be over in 15 seconds when I hit the pavement? I just don't know. That is, for anybody to try and get in that frame of mind to think how they were thinking, it's a deep and scary place to be.
It's one thing that the government would, let's say, let's follow the conspiracy, right? And this is the government. That is one thing, I see it that is possibly even easy for the government to sacrifice a civilian, right? But how do you do that for your own government agencies like the NYPD, the fire department, so many people that work, for the government authority running into the building, and even they lost their lives?
Yeah.
Like it's a rough thought to imagine that this was, done to us by us.
And that leads to my next thing, and that is, what we always talk about. There's always that secret shadow government which pulls all the strings. The very rich and very powerful shadow puppeteers that are basically running the world now. That might have been just stage one or phase one of their whole thing. And I've been watching some videos and listening to some podcasts about, even the president and, 5-star generals, they get told they don't have clearance to look at some things. So if they don't have clearance, these are the most powerful men in the I'll do that, most powerful country in the world. And then if they don't have the clearance, well, who the hell has clearance above them, and who gave them that clearance? So it does lead, there is almost 100% a shadow, I don't even know if you would call them a government, but there's a shadow conspiracy happening, an organization who are controlling world markets, controlling countries, and that's it. It's a scary thing. They can do anything they want to anybody if it's gonna suit their end goal.
Money, you can do whatever.
And then the next thing you got to think of is, okay, if they're doing these kind of things to achieve their end goal, what is that end goal? Because
they accomplished it, because we are talking about something that happened.
Oh look, there's no denying it happened. It's the matter of getting to the why and the who's as of it happening, and I don't know if we ever will.
Control.
Kennedy died back in '63, and we still don't know for definite. I mean, we've all got our theories, and unfortunately, this was the biggest world-changing event that we all lived through, and I don't think we will ever get the answers to this one.
Have you ever seen the video of when the actual when I was it the first or the second? I'm gonna say when the first building, it had to be the first building. Anyway, somebody took a video from like on a rooftop, And right when it was collapsing, you see like small little explosions coming from the bottom, like outwards. People say that was the pressure of the building collapsing, but there's
No. Remember what I was just saying to you about inertia and as it falls? You would definitely see those micro explosion kind of things happening, but they would start from the top. The pressure is not touched down at the bottom until it gets to that point, which brings me to
going up to the bottom.
Sorry?
There's demolition charges going from bottom up.
Yeah, but yeah, see, it's just that's what I'm saying is the facts don't marry up to what happened. Now, I remember, and this is just going back to getting into the mind of the firefighters and things like that. Did you ever see that film? I think it's called World Trade Center or 9/11, the one with Nicolas Cage. I watch some of his stuff. I like a lot of his stuff, but I'm not what you call a Nicolas Cage fan. But there's this one scene where they're in the bottom, and it's starting to collapse from the top, and all you see is everybody looking up, hearing this noise and feel these vibrations. Then you start seeing all the columns starting to crack around them. Can you imagine being in there, seeing that, and knowing what's coming?
Yeah. There was also another movie that didn't really make too much headway, but it had a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It was about like 5 different people that worked in the building, and then you see their like their lives, their family, them going to the building, and then like each of them just losing their lives because they were the victims. But it just really puts into perspective how can I word this out without sounding like too too crazy or something. Let's just say this is a government action. It was done. How is it that it is so easy for them to be like, all these people are absolutely nothing?
Yep.
Because that movie, dare I say, was better than World Trade Center, just because it made me feel like that could have easily been me if I was working.
It could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. Now, here's a little story. Now, I've heard this a few times. I don't know if it's true, but a lot of people got caught out by 9/11, and there's a story of this one guy that worked in one of the towers, and his wife was at home, and she actually saw it all unfold, and she was in tears thinking she'd lost her husband and everything. And she'd been trying to call him, as everybody would do. They'd be trying to call their family members and stuff like that, just to hope that something had happened and they were alive and they were safe. And he ended up answering the phone, and he goes, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm at work." And then it was like, "Oh, really?" He was,
that has to be a true story. That has to be a true story, because I even heard that story.
You have? He was having an affair, and he was around having a bit of fun with his missus. He didn't even know the World Trade Center had happened.
Just in case for first timers listening in, I'm from the United States, New York. Jeremy and Gary, they're from West Australia, and we heard the same freaking story about this guy getting caught cheating because he didn't realize that the World Trade Center fell.
I would be surprised if there wasn't more than one, because what was it? There was something like 10,000 people worked in those towers, and I think the final count was about 3,000 actually lost their lives. So that's a lot of people that were very lucky and that were able to get out of it. But what you got to think is they may have survived the actual attack, but how's that going to scar their psyche and their mental life? It's got to scar you badly, that. Knowing that you could just go to work, and I mean, I know everybody, as soon as you walk out the house, you're at risk of being run over by a car, but you don't think about these things. But you always know they're in the back of your head. But to go to work in one of the tallest buildings in New York, you know you're going to be safe. And then, quite literally, bang. It makes you worry about not just yourself, but your family. And to add to this, what was weird, because that happened on the 9th of September. The following year, on the 12th of October, there was a nightclub hit in Bali, and that was blamed on Muslim activists in Bali, and Australians were the main. I mean, there were Americans in there and other nationals as well, but Australia was. We're probably the biggest group of people that go to Bali on holiday, because it's only like 3 hours from where Jeremy and I live. It's only a 3-hour flight away, so it's like another suburb where we all go, and it's nice and cheap and it's great. But I said to everybody that I know, I said, okay, so it happened on the 9th of September. Then it happened on the 12th of October. I said, what's going to happen on the 13th of November? And I was waiting the next year and nothing happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next attack is on the 13th of November. And if it does, it's a pattern. And it means that Osama bin Laden wasn't the big bad that, or at least he was only
Osama bin Laden was trained by the American government.
Yeah.
He was funded by the US government. But that's another one to go into.
Well, that's what I mean. And it's governments, man. It's governments. They don't deserve our trust.
Yeah. So I was just looking up then about the Pentagon.
Yeah.
When the Pentagon hit, I suppose you call it a square now. It's only got 4 sides, not 5.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
You watch the Security One camera video footage. Now, they said they'd lost all this other footage. You know, one of the most secure buildings in the world, I suppose you could call it. And you've only got one camera feed of a supposed plane hitting the exterior of your building.
That's one of the next things I was going to say. That being the most secure building on the planet, they would have every angle covered by at least 3 cameras.
You would think so. But I've just watched this little snippet from the Pentagon Security Camera 1.
Yeah.
And when you get to about 1:26, you can see a slight nose of something. Doesn't look like an aircraft.
Yeah.
And then literally the next frame, whatever object it was, it disappears. And this huge fiery ball of explosion happens at the building.
See, that doesn't follow a plane crash. That doesn't follow the narrative
of a plane crash.
crash.
You would watch the plane hit the building. You'd be able to see that in its frame. You'd see wings. You'd see shadows.
I mean, again, going back to the Pentagon, you would think they would have cameras with high frame rates to pick up all that sort of stuff, even if it was a low frame rate. And from
it looks like a missile would hit the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And then you look at the destruction that's happened to it. The way it's hit and cratered looks like an explosive has hit the wall rather than something with wings, because there's, you know what I mean? There's missing bits.
Yeah.
And then you look at the debris that they've supposedly found. It's like someone's gotten in there and gone, oh yeah, we'll throw a bit of aluminium here and some steel here and this there.
Well, this is the thing, right? You think about the plane. So you've got the fuselage, the big fuselage, which corresponds to the hole in the side of the Pentagon. Yes, I can agree with that bit. But you've still got the wings that go out to the sides. Even though they're not going to penetrate far into the building, they're going to leave marks all across because the wings are full of fuel. They're going to scorch the hell out of that fascia, and you didn't see any of that. So what happened to the wings? It's just nothing that makes sense.
Where are the wings? It's literally small bits of debris. I think the biggest bit's probably like that. It's like, hang on, you see more of a plane after being shot down by an anti-air gun or a missile, ground-to-air missile, than what you do a plane hitting a building.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
You have a car accident at speed, and there's more left than what was left of these planes.
Well, to a point, the planes, because they're so light, again, going into the engineering of them, they will crumple up, and the heat will disintegrate a certain degree of it. But you got to remember that the 2/3 of the back of the plane has already slowed down its inertia, and that's not going to do the same thing. So you would still you might lose the first 15 meters of the plane. The whole rest of it, yeah, it might be in pieces, but it would still be recognizable as a plane. The wings, the tail plane and everything.
My question is, with the photos that have been released of the debris, where are all the bodies?
I was just about to say, like, I've never heard how many people passed away in the Pentagon.
No, where are the bodies? You see all this rubbish and debris, like someone's been in the plane. Where are they?
Yeah.
Like, was there anybody?
You're not just gonna vaporize.
Yeah, I never heard of how many people passed away in the Pentagon. Also, you know, again, the Pentagon is supposedly the most secure building in the world. How did they get, you know, how was it that this plane was able to hit it?
Well, this is the other thing as well. It's like Buckingham Palace, and it's like the White House and all of these other places. It's controlled airspace. They know everything that's going on. They would have they would have fighter jets scrambled, and they would be on top of that thing. The top of the when Jeremy was talking about missiles, they would have missile batteries on top of the Pentagon to take out anything before it even got close to it. And if Jeremy, that video he was talking about, and it could have been a missile, it would have been going in the other bloody direction if it was coming from the Pentagon. So that discounts that as well. The Pentagon would not have been caught unawares. They've got the biggest surveillance. They've got the most security. They would have known that plane coming in a good 15-20 minutes, well, at least a good 15 minutes before it even got within range to hit, and they would have fighter jets scrambled, or at least they'd have countermeasures in place on the rooftops to take it out.
So it was 2,760 people that passed away. 2,763. Non-fatal injuries go up to 25,000.
So on the plane that hit the Pentagon, flight cabin crew, pilots, and passengers, over 50 people. Over 50, I think it's about 55.
Yeah.
And some of the names and some of the names that are on the plane and their job titles and what they had done, very interesting.
Mm.
You know, all those innocent people and the 343 firefighters that lost their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a page here I'm looking at for the York County and Williamsburg professional firefighters, and they've got them listed by name here on one of their pages.
And I've actually been to the Freedom Tower, and I've seen, you know, how they reconstructed everything. There's the waterfall going into the hole and having everybody's names all over the place and all this. It's very nice. And if we ever get into this topic again, maybe we could get into the paranormal of it, because apparently there are a lot of paranormal instances happening.
Oh, definitely need to look on that side of things.
There would be, man. Look about how many people have lost their lives in that one place.
Tragically.
Well, you know how we talk about residual hauntings and how something so traumatic happens that it impregnates itself into the walls and into everything around. And when the atmospheric conditions are right, it's like pressing play on that recording. When you times that by 3,000 people, and all at one point in time and space when all of this happened, when somebody presses play on that bloody thing, we're going to be in for a Ghostbusters level paranormal event, and that is something to end the show on. So it's time to go, but I think I can speak from everybody who's not an American that our hearts and our thoughts were with everybody on that day, and there will be every 9/11, because while it hits everybody in New York particularly bad, it was a message that hit everybody in the world, and we all now know that no one's safe, no one's guaranteed tomorrow, no one's guaranteed the next minute. Enjoy life, and watch the Shadow Files more.
Watch the Shadow Files more. Hit the like
and subscribe. All right, take it easy, guys.
Have a good one.
Goodbye.